I had made friends with an elderly gentleman, and I was telling him that my folks were going to come to town and that we would all go out to dinner together. And the old guy said, "You know, every single time that your dad comes to town, he has to tell me again about the time that he almost got buggered in San Francisco." Do you think he's going to tell that story again? Yeah, I said, yeah, I bet he is going to tell it, because there's like two stories that he's always got to tell if I'm present. So the story about that was that right out of high school, he ran away from home, jumped a freight train, rode freight trains all the way from Council Bluffs, Iowa to San Francisco. And it was in the middle of the Depression, so he hadn't given much thought to that merchant marine ships would not have much use for a boy who'd grown up in Council Bluffs, Iowa, when there were all these unemployed sailors running around. So he, could buy breakfast, which was a piece of pie and a cup of coffee for a nickel. And he was getting by, and then this very friendly guy invited him to come and stay at his place. And my dad, as the way my dad put it, he was a little suspicious, this guy, and he thought, yeah, this guy probably is going to bugger him. And he said he'd have probably done it, but by God, we would have busted up some furniture. Now, the other story that my dad always had to tell if Nathan was present was that when I was 7 years old, we lived in the Andes Mountains of Peru, a little thing, a copper mine, which I believe was a little bit north of Tacna in Peru. And it was called Toquepala. So my brother and I found an amazing foxhole. The sides were sheer, straight up and down, very nicely done foxhole, and just deep enough that the head of a 7-year-old could clear it, and we could have put some boards over the top and had a fort ready to go. So I jumped down in this foxhole, and the bottom quivered. Well, that's interesting. So I climbed out and got back about 30 yards and then just ran crazy and jumped up as high as I could and came down on that quivering bottom and broke through the crust and began to sink. And fortunately, my 5-year-old brother was able to pull me out and get me free, at which point we discovered that an abandoned privy hole makes a very good foxhole, but for what's been deposited at the bottom of it. So my dad always had to tell this story and emphasize that my little brother Jeffrey saved my life.